This is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update video for June 14th, 9:45 a.m. Here's Invest 92L, the floater, and the system is about to get off the picture here. They're going to have to recenter this, but it is getting better organized. The center is near the ball of convection up here around 10 degrees north and 39 west. And over the past few days, this has been pretty far south, around 6, 7, 8 degrees north. And it's very hard for systems to spin up when they're closer to the equator. And as soon as they get further away from the equator, there's more spin available due to the Earth's spin, and it's called the Coriolis effect. So now that the system is up here a little further north, we're seeing development, and at any moment the National Hurricane Center should go ahead and classify this as a tropical depression, and then later on it should become Tropical Storm Alex before it runs into upper level wind shear. So let's get right to the wind shear. This is from the University of Wisconsin, and we can see that the system is right here, and it's got a little upper level outflow here, a little high pressure building aloft. But look what's out in front of it. We have 20, 30, 40 knots of shear right out in front of this system, and this is heading in this general direction. So in about 48 hours it should encounter the wind shear and start to weaken a little bit. So it's only going to have a small window of opportunity here to really get its act together. Alright, here are the current models on the system from the front page of Hurricane City. You click the models on the hurricane tracking map, and this is what comes up. They're mouseable. You mouse over them and it gives the expected wind speeds for the future of this, but the models are a little bit in disagreement this morning as to if this is even going to develop at all. The GFS has been really stubborn in trying to develop this system. The GFDL yesterday had this getting up to a Category 1 hurricane and then weakening as it approached the Leeward Islands. Now it's barely holding on to it at all. The the H-WRF is also barely holding on to the system, and the BAM models, which are good for early development, take this generally into the center of the between the Windward and Leeward Islands here as a weak system. So none of the systems are really cranking this thing up, and again, it's because of that upper level wind shear. Alright, here is the current position of our Invest 92L, which soon will be a tropical depression, and it's beginning to make more of that west-northwest turn. And naturally, again, when it was back in here, traveling this far south, you know, you have the equator right down here, and you're just not getting much of a spin. Now it's up here, and we should start to see a little more spin as it gets a little further north, but again, it's going to run into that wind shear coming up. Okay, here is the AVN shear map. This is the current situation right now, and if you notice here, out in front of it, we have 30 knots of wind shear all through here, and this is where the system is headed. And this isn't going to budge because of an upper level low, and I'll show you that map in just a minute. Now let's go out 48 hours, and you can see the wind shear lessens a little bit, but it's still around 20 knots out in front of this, so it's not going to allow any development of this system. And it wouldn't surprise me if this ends up being one of these remnant low type situations moving through the Caribbean Sea after it encounters this wind shear. We'll just have to wait and see on that. This is the African dust. Normally this animates. I just wanted to show you this one picture of this. You see all these reds up in here off the coast of northern Africa up here. Normally the African dust is way down here in the tropics in June and July, and it's really hard for systems to get going this early. But this year there's no dust out here. Here's our Invest 92L right here, and then here's another strong wave coming off Africa. Neither one of them are having to deal with dry conditions right now in the East Atlantic, or African dust, aerosols, and all the things that are out in the East Atlantic. So everything is good for this to develop for the next 48 hours until it runs into that wind shear. Here is the surface map from the National Weather Service, and you can see that we have this trough out here. Here is our cold front right here, and a trough, and this is what's causing the wind shear all through the Caribbean and out into the Atlantic. Now we have a big high pressure system out here in the northeast Atlantic. That's called the Azores High, and that's helping to push our Invest off to the west and west-northwest. Now once it gets into the eastern Caribbean here, if it even survives, then it'll start heading a little more west, because there's a high pressure, that's a Bermuda High, that's set up over here, and that should shove it in through the Caribbean, and that'll set the stage maybe for next week sometime. We'll have to see if we end up having a system heading into the Gulf of Mexico. That is a possibility, but that's long range, and we have a lot of time to watch this. Here is the wind shear tendency map, and notice all the reds here east of the Leeward Islands. That is high wind shear of around 40 to 50 knots of wind shear, and the white circles within this red zone are increasing wind shear, and the blue dashed lines are decreasing shear. So we have decreasing shear immediately out in front of Invest 92L, but increasing as it gets a little further out into time, and this is indications that this shear is not going away anytime soon, and this is heading into a wall of shear. Here is a shot of Africa, and again we see not only this wave right here off the coast of Africa, but we also have another wave in this middle of the country out here that's also going to come out in about 3 or 4 days. So the intertropical convergence zone is very active right now. This is going to be a very active Cape Verde season this year. Well, that's about it for now. Once again, a reminder on the front page of Hurricane City, we have the Hurricane TV covering the webcams from the floor of the Gulf of Mexico, covering the oil spill. They're on and off throughout the day depending on whether I'm editing or something else is going on. Sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down, but check it out every now and then. We do have the 6-panel webcams from the floor of the Gulf of Mexico showing the oil leak. The oil is still pouring out of there at about 1 million gallons a day. It's affecting the northern Gulf Coast. This is going to be a factor throughout the hurricane season. We're just going to have to deal with this, and it's going to be a long hurricane season at that. That's it for now. I'll be back with another update in a day or two, depending on the situation with Invest 92L, which should become Tropical Storm Alex. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.